Hello again from my front porch. I'm all gussied up here today because I just got back from an important meeting with an important individual. In fact, I'm drinking still the important individual's water. Thank you, important individual. But seriously, I did get a chance here this afternoon to do one more interview for my book. I know you're saying, Paul, you already turned in the book. Yes, I did. But I warned the ATD people that I had this other interview that I really wanted to work in because I thought it was a really important perspective to include, and I was able to get it in. So I just got back from having a half-hour sit-down conversation with Dan Houston, who is the president, CEO, and chairman of the Principal Financial Group, an insurance company. In fact, here, we'll see somewhere. He gave me his card. See there, that's Dan Houston's card right there. And so it says right here that he is Daniel J. Houston, chairman, president, and chief executive officer. Yes. Anyway, Dan I know from back when I used to work at Principal as well. He was in leadership then. He wasn't at this level of leadership then, but he was in leadership at Principal. And he and I crossed paths on many things. He's very supportive of training and development, which was one of the reasons I want to talk to him, obviously. He's also a huge advocate for United Way and in fact stays involved. Little extra bit of trivia, not only did I have a chance to spend half an hour sitting down and chatting with Dan, but as I was leaving, his next appointment that was waiting in his waiting room for me to leave so that she could go in was Mary Sellers, who used to be the president of the Central Iowa United Way and now is president of the National United Way. And apparently she still has her home here in Des Moines, Iowa, and works from home as much as possible, even though the main office is out in the Washington, D.C. area. So that was kind of fun to not only have a chance to visit with Dan, but to then, who's the CEO of this international insurance company, but also then meet up again with Mary Sellers, who I crossed paths with doing some United Way work in the past, which she was still president of the United Way here. But it was fun then to cross paths with Mary Sellers as well, who is now the president of, again, the National United Way now. So it was really quite the afternoon. But anyway, Dan and I were visiting because I was interviewing him for my book. I told the ATD people that I wanted to be able to include his interview as well because he is that C-suite level person. C meaning, chief whatever, chief executive officer, chief financial officer, chief information officer, chief operational, whatever. That C in front of the acronym, that's called the C-suite level. And so it was really good I wanted to include a perspective from someone at the C-suite level. And so I was able to get that. And while there are other CEOs that I could have talked to, I could have tried to pin somebody else down, I thought I really wanted to visit with Dan. Because Dan, again, I know is a huge supporter of training and development, of learning in general. And so I knew that he would give me some really great morsels that could work into what I've put into my book. And so you now are going to get a little sneak peek at some of those things. So check that. I've got my raw notes here. Just came back, as I said, from the interview. And so I want to share with you some of the things that Dan Houston himself said about structured on-the-job training, or even just the concept of on-the-job training itself, experiential learning. Because obviously I'm a big advocate of structuring that, of making it intentional, but at the core it all still is getting that experience, that on-the-job learning experience. And so that's, in the broader context, Dan had a number of things to say about just the experience itself in general. And so I'm going to read to you some of these things. He describes himself as a huge advocate and supporter of on-the-job training. And having, again, worked in the L&D area at Principal, I can attest to the fact that Dan Houston is a huge supporter of those things. But what he was in talking about his own background, recounting the things that helped him get to the point that he's at now, he cited that it really was a combination of training, of being mentored by individuals who had experience in different roles as he progressed up through the line, but that OJT, on-the-job training, was a massive part of it. In fact, he said that OJT was not only important, it was absolutely critical for him being able to get to where he's at. No question about it. It was absolutely critical for him to be able to get there. And I thought, oh, that's a good point to note. And there's lots of notes here. I'm jumping to some of the highlights. He also indicated that once you get to that level, because I asked him, I said, so you know, there are some that say, you know, well, once you get to a point of leadership, you've arrived, and you know, you might, you know, you study up on things that help you manage the stuff you're doing, but you personally don't really need to learn much now because you've arrived, you've got to the top. Dan does not agree with that in the slightest. In fact, I love this comment. He said, the minute you say there isn't a need for me, he's talking again about himself as a C-suite level individual. The minute someone in that kind of a role says that they feel they no longer have a need for on-the-job training, they are either in denial or they simply have not yet announced their retirement. So either you are in denial that you still need on-the-job training, or you've just not announced yet that you're retiring because you're on the way out, buddy. I added the last part about you being on the way out. And he said also, is there ever a level when OJT is not critical to have? He was emphatic in saying, no, absolutely not. OJT is critical at every possible job level. Now think about that, because sometimes on-the-job training gets relegated to new hire training, or training the technician, the assembly line worker, the frontline individuals. And we don't really think about OJT being something that applies to anybody else along the rest of the journey upward. But Dan's saying, no, not at all the case. Any level needs to have OJT. There's never any level. And he says, does a strong CEO back on the job training? Does a strong CEO support on the job training? Yes, absolutely they should. That's right. So yes, that's what Dan Houston, CEO, Chairman and President of Principal Financial Group, has to say. And so he also says that OJT is exponentially more important today. That there was a time when you could get a college degree, and having a college degree meant you had a future. That's all you needed. You just needed the college degree, and then you'd have a future. However, in this particular case, he's saying that we are now to a point where just having that college degree is no longer any guarantee of any success. Well, I mean, I took that from what he said. He didn't say that verbatim, and I'm not quoting him there, because it is a factor to the success. But just having the college degree does not mean that you're going to be successful. That the OJT is exponentially more important today, because that on-the-job experience, that experiential learning, is something that is going to help them be able to give them expertise in the topic and allow them to remain current and knowledgeable in the topic because of that on-the-job experience they're getting. They're not just reading about it. They're not just studying about it. They're not just hearing about it. They are experiencing it firsthand, and that's what is allowing them to continue to do that. So again, had a very, very exciting discussion with him. Now, I always enjoy visiting with Dan. I've known him for years, from back when I worked at Principal, and we would cross paths in those different ways. But I'm always impressed by how focused he is, and how he makes absolutely no excuses or no reservation, holds back nothing when it comes to talking about the value of investing in employees, in the development of employees, the long-term growth of employees. He's a huge advocate for the concept that you invest in your people so that your people invest in the company, that you don't do it the other way around. You don't decide, should we invest based on what they are doing? It's not a reward system. It is a way of investing in the success of the company. And so it's really great to get the opportunity to sit down with him and have that chat. I wish we'd had longer, but again, he's, He's now got all these demands. I mean, the head of the National United Way was waiting in the lobby to talk to him. So it's understandable that would happen. The other thing that I thought was interesting, in addition to when I got my nice water here, was I got a chance to also get a little peek as to how they've renovated 7-Eleven High Street downtown. 7-Eleven High Street being one of the very first buildings that, the first major buildings that Bankers Trust had that became, or not Bankers Trust, Bankers Life and Casualty. I think Bankers Trust is a bank here in Des Moines. That's a whole different thing. But that's what Principal originally was called. That was the original title of it. Actually, it's had several different titles, so I might not be even correct on that being the original one. There might have actually been one before that, but I digress. Point is, 7-Eleven High Street is one of their first major buildings when they decided we're establishing and we're building downtown and we're doing this. Got a little bit of trivia that they had actually been looking at somewhere out in the western part of Des Moines back when they built this 7-Eleven High Street building, which was built a long time ago, but that they were talked into staying downtown by the Yonkers folks who had a big store. Their main branch, their initial branch was downtown. Sadly, it's gone now. But at the time, it was a big deal downtown. It was like the Macy's of Des Moines, Iowa. And so they talked these folks to build their building at 7-Eleven High Street many years ago, because they wanted to have that labor force downtown shopping at Yonkers. And so they were looking at a little symbiotic relationship there, and they managed to talk them into it, and so now they built down there. Now Principal has, I don't know, 5-6 buildings downtown connected through skywalks and stuff, but this building, 7-Eleven High Street, recently went through a major renovation, and I mean they gutted the place and completely revamped a bunch of stuff in it. Now, again, I used to work there. It's been, what, 3-4 years ago, at least 4 years ago, that I was there. And there were some aspects that were the same. They maintained the character of some things. They didn't just like change the whole thing. They kept a little connection, but tie back to the history, the look and feel of some things. But where they could, they modernized it, made it sleek and contemporary, and it's a really great, beautiful blending of things. In the lobby area where I was waiting for Dan's assistant to come down and get me, they have, I'm not even exaggerating, because I confirmed this with the security folks, they have an animated screen there that I may try to slip in some video depending on how it came out. They had an animated screen now that is literally 4 stories tall. Literally, a 4-story tall animated screen. It's more narrow and 4 stories tall, and it has this constant flow of these snippets of scenes from around the world. Beautiful, magnificent. Although it gives you a little bit of a kink in your neck when you're looking like this, watching, trying to watch. It's like going to an IMAX movie and sitting in the front row. But it was awesome. And then even going up into Dan's office, it used to be all woodwork, all very, very Mad Men kind of look and feel, to that era up there. And there is still a little of that has been retained. There are a lot of characteristics, the windows and the brass fittings and all that stuff. All of that's maintained. But then in the hallways themselves and the glass, they've added glass doors, but it's all clean and sleek and very, very nice. I wish I'd had a little bit more time to maybe film a little bit of that, but who knows? Maybe I'll stop back again sometime. There were some things that Dan and I talked about that were not directly related to structure on the job training, but dealt more with just personal chatting between us, that I thought, that would be an interesting topic to do a Hello From My Front Porch interview about. So who knows? Maybe that'll happen, and y'all will get a chance to see what I experienced there a little bit. So anyway, I'm back home now. I'm working the rest of the day from home because I've got some audio stuff that I'm doing for some video, some training video things at work, and it's a lot quieter here than it is at Waldinger, where there's the banging in the shop and the building of things in the shop area, and then plus just people walking down the hallway talking. Even with my office door shut, if they're talking loud, it comes in, and so it's a lot quieter here at home. Nobody else here, and so I've got my little makeshift studio set up in the other room, and I'm gonna get to that now. So anyway, I'm going to let you all go. I'm going to get back to drinking the rest of my water provided to me from the C-suite level. It's the Nestle Pure Life, in case you're curious. The poor label has seen better days. but yeah, so thank you very much, Dan Houston and the Principal Financial Group, for this lovely bottle of water, and for giving me some of the absolutely great comments that I was hoping to get from a strong, staunch learning and development supporter who happens to be now at the C-suite level. Very important, was wonderful. I appreciated it very much. And I appreciate all of you who are watching. Thank you as well. And I'll talk to you all next time from my front porch.